The countdown began. We're live in 5, 4, 3. The red light blinked atop the studio cameras, signaling to millions of viewers around the world. The global leadership debate was live. On the left, U.S. President Donald Trump, sharply dressed, leaned forward with his familiar, confident smirk. On the right, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, calm, poised, wearing his signature green beret, sat with quiet intensity. But something was off. Tension hung in the air, like a storm about to burst. The moderator welcomed the world, then barely introduced the panel when Trump interrupted. "We need to talk about Africa. It's time we stop pretending they can run things on their own," Trump said, chuckling. Traoré didn't flinch. He simply looked at Trump. But behind those calm eyes, something stirred. Then Trump leaned in, eyes narrowing. "You're lucky to be here," he muttered. "Don't bite the hand that feeds you." Gasps echoed softly behind the cameras. But Traoré stayed silent. For now, the world had no idea what was coming next. The studio lights buzzed faintly above, but the energy in the room crackled louder. Millions watched from smartphones, flat screens, cafes, and war-torn villages. In Ouagadougou, grandmothers huddled with children by battery-powered radios. In Washington, D.C., advisors watched with clenched jaws. Trump continued, gesturing broadly. "Let's be honest, we built this world order. And if people like Captain, whatever his name is," he sneered, "want to challenge it, they better be ready for consequences." Still, Traoré didn't speak. He looked at the moderator, nodded politely, then leaned closer to the mic. "I waited," Traoré said softly. "I listened. Now let me ask, when you say we built this world order, who is we?" The moderator tried to intervene. Trump raised a brow, mocking. "I mean America, genius." Traoré's voice was gentle, almost sad. "Did Africa ask you to build it for us?" The room went cold. Trump chuckled. "Sit down, you hypocrisy." It echoed across the studio. Silence. But then something shifted. Traoré leaned back in his chair, slowly, eyes fixed on Trump, not in anger, but in something far deeper. Disappointment. The world leaned in. Something was coming. Traoré placed both hands on the table. The camera zoomed in. "You want to talk about hypocrisy?" he said quietly, the fire now burning in his throat. "Then let me tell you a story." He pulled back his sleeve, revealing an old scar, faded but clear. "When I was 12, he said, my village was bombed by peacekeepers. I remember hiding under my mother's skirt, hearing screams. The jets wore American flags. The audience froze. Trump squirmed in his seat. She didn't survive," Traoré continued. "Neither did half the village. But I lived with this scar. And a promise. No child would grow up the way I did. No African child." His voice cracked slightly, but he steadied it. "You think you silenced me with insults? I've heard bullets louder than you, Mr. Trump." The moderator whispered, "Captain, please." But Traoré held up a hand. The studio was silent. "I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to speak truth, even if my voice shakes." Trump stared, mouth slightly open. The internet lit up. Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. Clips exploded. Comment sections overflowed. But it was only beginning, and Traoré was just warming up. The words still echoed in the studio. "Sit down, you hypocrisy." No one moved, not the moderator, not the cameras, not even the tech team behind the glass. Just silence. Captain Ibrahim Traoré's eyes didn't flinch. His fingers traced the scar on his wrist, barely visible but ancient. He blinked slowly. When he finally spoke, his voice was so soft, so controlled. It felt like thunder wrapped in velvet. "You can shout," Traoré said calmly. "You can insult. You can even lie. But the truth doesn't blink." Trump scoffed, leaning back. "Oh, please, Don't lecture us. You think wearing a beret makes you smart? A tear formed in the corner of Traoré's eye, but not from weakness. I wear it for my brother, shot in the chest because he carried a book by a soldier trained in America. A studio producer gasped. Trump stiffened. The camera cut to the live audience. An older African woman covered her mouth. A young American college student whispered, "Oh my God." Suddenly, people watching around the world weren't just watching a debate. They were watching a man remember pain, and something in the air shifted. This was no longer about politics. This was personal. I was 11, Traoré began, eyes now locked on Trump. My brother's name was Idris. The moderator leaned forward, but he didn't dare interrupt. We had one flashlight in the whole village, Traoré continued. My brother would use it to read his school books after dark, every night. He paused. One night I heard a noise. I looked outside. An armored vehicle stood outside our home. There were men, soldiers, trained, armed. They said someone reported suspicious behavior. Trump was silent. They saw the books, thought they were plans, thought a flashlight meant a bomb. They shouted. My brother raised his hands. They shot anyway. Traoré's lips trembled, but he didn't stop. I held his body, his blood mixed with pages from his math book. A woman in the audience sobbed. I don't hate you, Traoré said, voice raw. But I need you to understand. Your policies aren't just paperwork. They bleed. Trump's face froze. The studio was paralyzed, and across the world, screens lit with comments. I'm crying. This broke me. Why have I never heard this before? This wasn't just a debate anymore. It was a wound reopened on live air. Producers behind the glass were panicking. This wasn't in the script, one whispered. The moderator hesitated, then tried to pivot. Captain Traoré, let's keep it civil. We're here for dialogue, not grief. But Traoré looked at him. Just a look, and the moderator fell silent again. Trump shifted in his seat. So what? You want me to apologize for history? Traoré stared at him. I don't need your apology, he said. I need your honesty. The room went still again. You talk about peace, Traoré said, but sell weapons. You talk about democracy, but back coups. You speak of aid, but demand oil. You speak of freedom, but arm those who chain us. The studio lights flickered. Or maybe it was just the power of the truth. I watched my mother barter with her last coins to get medicine priced in dollars, while your diplomats dined in hotels one street away. Trump tried to respond, but his voice caught. This isn't about left or right, Traoré said. It's about right and wrong. The camera caught a tear running down his cheek, real, unstaged, and in that moment, millions watching felt their throats tighten. Because they weren't just watching a man speak. They were watching a man bleed truth. The studio was silent, but outside, the world exploded. Millions glued to their screens, watching the unthinkable unfold. In homes across Africa, Europe, and America, viewers whispered in disbelief. What just happened? Did Trump really say that? Who is this Captain Traoré? Social media erupted in real time. Tweets, shares, and heartbreak poured across every platform. Back inside the studio, Trump's face was red, his jaw clenched tight. Traoré remained calm, but inside, his heart raced. He wasn't just fighting for himself, he was fighting for every unheard voice. Then, without warning, Trump slammed his hand on the table. Sit down, you hypocrisy, he growled. Gasps echoed in the studio. Cameras zoomed in on Traoré's face, stone cold, unyielding. The moderator stammered, trying to regain control, but the energy was electric, raw, dangerous. The world had never seen a debate like this, and no one would forget it. Traoré sat back, eyes never leaving Trump. A beat passed, thick with tension. Then Traoré spoke, voice low but clear. "I won't sit down," he said softly. "Not when millions like me have been forced to." The studio felt frozen in time. Trump's glare turned into a sneer. "Who do you think you are?" Traoré's gaze was steady. "I am a voice for my people, for those crushed beneath broken promises." He told stories of children going hungry, while nations rich in resources stayed poor. Of mothers who lost everything to wars fueled by greed. Each word was a weighty stone, thrown into a still pond. Ripples spread far beyond the cameras. Trump opened his mouth, but the words caught in his throat. He realized this was more than a debate. This was history. The broadcast switched to split screen. Millions could see both men locked in a battle of wills. Traoré's calmness was no weakness. It was a shield forged by years of struggle. He shared a story few knew. When foreign troops entered his country, many turned away, but he stood firm. He worked with his people to rebuild what was lost: schools, hospitals, hope. He spoke of sacrifice, pain, and unwavering faith in his nation's future. Trump's face flickered. Annoyance, then something like respect. The studio audience watched, spellbound. A tear rolled down Traoré's cheek, unseen by many but captured by the closest camera. The room held its breath. For one moment, it wasn't about power or politics. It was about humanity. And in that moment, the world began to understand. The camera zoomed in on Captain Ibrahim Traoré's face, steady, yet carrying the weight of 1,000 silent prayers. He spoke slowly, each word measured. "For years, my country bore the burden of decisions made far away. Decisions made in boardrooms in capitals I've never visited." He paused, remembering the faces of families torn apart by war and hunger. "My people wake every day wondering if the next shipment of aid will arrive, or if the next order from foreign powers will take more than it gives." Traoré's voice grew softer. "I am not just a leader. I am a son, a brother, a witness." Trump shifted uncomfortably, his fingers tapping on the table. "We didn't ask for this battle," Traoré continued. "But when your actions threaten the future of millions, silence is not an option." The room fell into heavy silence. The moderator glanced at the clock, but dared not interrupt. Millions watching held their breath, feeling the weight of those words deep inside. Traoré wasn't just talking about politics. He was talking about survival. Trump's eyes flashed with irritation. "Survival?" he snapped. "We've done more for Africa than anyone else. We brought peace, trade, and aid." The words came sharp, but Traoré's calm didn't falter. "Peace?" Traoré asked quietly. "Is it peace when villages are empty? When children go to bed hungry? And when your aid comes with chains attached?" The studio was tense, every word a spark on dry grass. "I'm not here to fight," Traoré said. "I'm here to open eyes." Trump leaned forward, pointing an accusing finger. "You think you can lecture America? You think you can speak for all Africans?" Traoré's voice was steady but fierce. "I speak for those who have no voice. For mothers bearing children lost to conflicts you helped fuel." Trump's face hardened. The debate wasn't just words anymore. It was a battle for truth. Millions felt it. The world was watching history. After the last sentence, the studio fell into a silence so heavy, it felt like the air itself was holding its breath. Even the flashing cameras seemed to pause. Traoré's eyes scanned the room, not with anger, but with sorrow. "This is not a fight between men," he said softly. "It's a plea for understanding." Trump clenched his jaw, struggling to respond. The moderator tried to break the silence, but the words wouldn't come. Outside the studio, across continents, people whispered prayers, shed tears, and questioned everything they thought they knew. In that silence, millions felt something shift deep inside. The truth wasn't a weapon. It was a light, a fragile burning light. And on that stage, under the world's watchful gaze, it was glowing brighter than ever. The tension in the studio was thick enough to cut. Trump's anger simmered beneath the surface, but for once he didn't interrupt. Captain Ibrahim Traoré took a slow breath, steadying himself. "I have seen a future many don't want to face," he said quietly. "A future where children inherit nothing but debt, war, and silence." The audience sat frozen. Even the moderators seemed unsure what to do next. "America," Traoré continued, "has the power to change that future. But power without responsibility is destruction." His words weren't accusations. They were a challenge. Trump's eyes flickered, a flicker of something between doubt and respect. The cameras caught the moment, a stillness, a crack in the armor. Millions watching sensed it too. This wasn't just a fight of wills. It was a fragile moment where hope and fear collided. And in that pause, the world wondered, could this be the beginning of change? Traoré's gaze softened, but his voice remained firm. "I speak for the voiceless, the farmers whose fields dry while promises flow freely elsewhere, the mothers who bury their children while the world looks away." He looked directly at Trump. "Your country's strength can be a shield for those who have none, but it must be wielded with care, with respect." The studio was silent, except for the faint hum of cameras. Trump's jaw tightened, then relaxed slightly. "Maybe," Traoré said, "this debate is not about who wins, but about who listens." He paused, then added, "And I am here to listen and to be heard." Across continents, millions felt tears sting their eyes, because what they saw was not just a man defending a nation. They saw a man carrying the hopes of millions with quiet courage, and in his eyes, the raw pain of a past still too close. The debate resumed, but something had shifted. Trump's tone was less harsh, his words more measured. "We all want peace," he said, "but peace is not easy." Traoré nodded. "No, peace is not easy, but it is necessary." He told a story few knew, how in his country, war wasn't just on battlefields. It was fought in homes, in schools, in hearts. He spoke of children too young to remember a time without fear, of families torn apart by violence hidden from headlines, and of a generation longing for a chance to dream again. As he spoke, the studio's atmosphere grew heavy with emotion. Trump listened, a flicker of understanding crossing his face. Outside, the world held its breath. Because in that moment the fight was no longer about politics, it was about humanity, and the hope that even the deepest wounds could heal. The room was heavy with emotion, but the debate took an unexpected turn. Trump's usual bravado softened, his voice quieter. "I didn't come here to fight a man," he said slowly. "I came to defend my country's honor." Traoré nodded, understanding but firm. "Honor means nothing if it hides pain," Traoré said. "You can't silence history by shouting." The cameras caught something rare, a moment of respect between two very different leaders. Millions watching sensed it too. This wasn't just a clash. It was a fragile bridge being built, one word at a time. Traoré's eyes burned with hope. For all the pain, the scars, the broken promises, there was still a chance. And in that chance lay the future of millions waiting for peace. Traoré leaned forward, his voice gentle but unyielding. "Let us not be enemies on a stage, but allies for a world that suffers too much." Trump's face reflected the weight of decades, pride, regret, and something else. Possibility. "We must do better," Trump admitted, "for the sake of the future." As cameras rolled, the two men shared a look, a silent vow to try. The studio audience, the millions watching, the world beyond, they all felt it. A hope that maybe, just maybe, voices divided by history could one day unite. The debate ended, but its impact was just beginning. Captain Ibrahim Traoré stood tall, not just as a leader but as a symbol of courage, of truth spoken when silence was easier, of a world yearning to heal. Millions wiped tears as they watched Traoré's final words echo. This is not about us. It is about those who come after, the children who deserve a better world. The screen faded to black, but hearts remained wide open. And now, dear viewer, the story is in your hands. If this moved you, if you believe in the power of truth and hope, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Share your thoughts. Share your tears. Together, we keep this conversation alive. Because change begins with us, and every voice matters.